In Caracas, under a blazing September sun, Venezuela's President Nicolás Maduro walks into a crowd of cheering supporters. He's smiling, embracing party youth and dancing on stage, a familiar image in Venezuelan state media. But as upbeat music blares through loudspeakers and red flags wave across the plaza, a deeper, more alarming message underpins this public display. This isn't just another anniversary celebration for the ruling United Socialist Party's youth wing, the JPSUV. It's the prelude to something far more serious. President Maduro has just issued a national call to arms, not to professional soldiers, but to civilians, to the reservists, to the Bolivarian militia, to ordinary Venezuelans. Tomorrow, he announces, we have a beautiful day. It's a peculiar way to describe military training, but this is how Maduro frames it, a patriotic duty. He calls on all enlisted civilians and militia members to report to military barracks and units across the country from 9 in the morning until 6 in the evening. There they will receive instruction, tactical theory, strategic preparation, and perhaps most significantly, firearms training. Venezuelans, he says, must learn how to shoot. The statement is bold, and it comes at a time of mounting tension. Just days earlier, the United States deployed warships to the Caribbean as part of what the Pentagon calls an expanded anti-drug operation. Officially, it's a multinational effort to cut off narcotics routes. But in Caracas, the move is being interpreted as an aggressive escalation, a threat. For Maduro, the optics are clear. Venezuela is being encircled, and it must prepare. This isn't the first time Venezuela has leaned on civilian mobilization as a show of resistance. The Bolivarian national militia, created under Hugo Chavez, was always envisioned as a civilian military reserve, a symbolic and strategic buffer against foreign aggression. Now Maduro is doubling down on that legacy, urging the people to the barracks, not just for drills, but to train, to shoot, and to ready themselves for what he portrays as an existential fight for national sovereignty. We do not attack people, we do not threaten anyone, he tells the crowd, but whoever attacks Venezuela will find us. He pauses. Peace, 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 he says. That is our slogan. Peace may be the slogan, but the tone is unmistakably defiant. To understand the stakes, we must first understand the moment. Venezuela today is a nation under pressure, internally fractured, externally isolated, and perpetually positioned as a flashpoint in US-Latin American relations. Since 2019, Washington has refused to recognize Maduro's presidency, instead backing opposition leader Juan Guaido. Economic sanctions followed, targeting Venezuela's state-run oil industry and cutting the country off from global financial markets. Billions of dollars in foreign assets were frozen, fuel imports were blocked, and the economy, already ravaged by inflation and corruption, spiraled into collapse. By the United Nations' latest estimates, more than 7 million Venezuelans have fled the country since 2015. It's one of the largest displacement crises in the world. Hospitals have no medicine, schools no teachers, shelves in grocery stores remain half empty. A monthly minimum wage buys little more than a bag of rice. In this context, Maduro's call to train with weapons feels jarringly disconnected, or perhaps carefully calculated. Critics call it a distraction, a militarized performance, one more attempt to stir nationalist fervor in place of political solutions. But for the government and its core base, this call to arms is framed not as politics, but patriotism, a defense of the revolution, of sovereignty, of Venezuela itself. It's no coincidence that this rally is wrapped in red, the color of Chavez's movement, and that Maduro delivers his speech under the gaze of youth brigades and revolutionary slogans. The parallels with Chavez are not just symbolic, they are strategic. Chavez built the Bolivarian revolution on the foundation of civilian-military unity, a blurred line between state, party, and armed forces. That same fusion now fuels Maduro's defense posture. The civic-military union, as it's officially called, is more than a slogan. It is the architecture of Venezuela's modern political system, a hybrid of populist mobilization and military loyalty. And this weekend's nationwide training initiative is one of its most visible expressions. From the outside, it may appear dramatic or even dangerous. A civilian population being trained in tactics, theories, and firearms, all while geopolitical tensions simmer just offshore. But for Maduro's government, it's a show of strength, a message to adversaries at home and abroad that Venezuela will not be intimidated. Still, the reality on the ground paints a more complex picture, While Maduro rallies in the capital, the rest of the country grapples with daily shortages: food, fuel, water, power. Protests continue quietly in scattered towns and rural districts. Teachers strike for higher wages, doctors plead for medical supplies, parents line up for subsidized bread, and many ask, what good is learning to shoot when you can't afford to eat? Even among Maduro's supporters, fatigue is growing. The chants still echo, patria o muerte, but the conviction behind them has frayed. Revolution, once romanticized, now comes with a daily price. But Maduro's government, despite international condemnation and domestic unrest, remains intact. The military high command is loyal. The judiciary is aligned. The National Assembly is dominated by the ruling party. And the media, at least the public broadcasters, echo the party line. This kind of centralized control allows Maduro to maneuver even when the world watches with skepticism. To the United States, Maduro's latest mobilization may appear theatrical, but in a region marked by historical interventions, the fear of foreign boots on Latin American soil remains deeply embedded in the political psyche. From the Bay of Pigs to Panama, from Haiti to Honduras, military incursions by the US are not distant history. They are generational memory. In that context, Maduro's rhetoric finds fertile ground. Defend the homeland, resist imperialism, arm the people. These are not just slogans, they are survival mechanisms in a hostile geopolitical climate. The question, however, is whether this militarized identity can sustain a broken economy, whether calls to arms can substitute for meaningful reform, and whether the people, especially the youth being celebrated today, will continue to rally behind a government that offers training rifles in place of textbooks and marching orders in place of opportunity. This Saturday, across Venezuela, thousands are expected to report to barracks. They will don uniforms, listen to lectures, learn tactics, load weapons, fire rounds at targets that in real life remain abstract or unseen. Maduro frames it all as preparation. He says Venezuela is defending peace. But as warships float in the Caribbean and poverty deepens in the barrios, the line between defense and provocation blurs, and the rest of the world watches, uncertain whether this is the rehearsal for resistance or the last act of a collapsing revolution. This is Caracas. This is Venezuela. And this is the fight for the narrative, both at home and on the world stage.